For the past decade, a specific formula has dominated the multiplex. We watch characters confront a supernatural entity that eventually reveals itself as a walking metaphor for unprocessed grief or childhood trauma. At the same time, mainstream romantic comedies reward a very specific type of male protagonist, the guy who wears down a woman's boundaries through sheer persistence until she finally yields to his affection. In 2025, a $1 million indie feature premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival and violently rejected both conventions. Curry Barker's film Obsession starts with a premise straight out of a sitcom. Bear is a socially stagnant music store employee who lives in his dead grandmother's house and pines for his vibrant coworker Nikki. The script lulls the audience into expecting a familiar tale of unrequited love finally blooming. It uses the comforting rhythm of a romantic fantasy as bait, right before snapping the trap shut to deliver something profoundly cruel. After failing to ask Nikki out, Bear buys a discontinued novelty item called a Wish Willow, a gimmicky toy from the 1980s that promises to grant a single desire to whoever breaks it. His demand is specific and absolute. He wishes that Nikki would love him more than anyone else in the entire world. This flowcharts how Bear's demand breaks traditional rules. While classic setups grant wishes through ironic events, Bear's wish skips irony, executing a direct hijacking of Nikki's free will. As his path consumes hers, there's no organic emotional shift. Magic simply overrides her nervous system. He doesn't win her over. He weaponizes his own toxic entitlement into a biological curse that strips her of all agency. Halfway through the runtime, the film executes a brutal perspective shift. It forces us to experience the exact same events from Nikki's point of view. What Bear interprets as aggressive affection is actually a terrifying supernatural colonization. Nikki's mind has been entirely displaced by a demonic entity piloting her flesh. Actor Inde Navarrete physicalizes this captivity by moving in sudden, jerky bursts. She contorts her body and snaps her neck like a broken marionette, forced to perform a romantic pantomime. The devotion mutates into grotesque hyper-codependence. In one instance, she stands completely paralyzed in the corner of a dark room, urinating on the floor rather than breaking her obsessive vigil over Bear. During brief, excruciating moments, the real Nikki manages to break through the possession. She weeps and screams over the phone, fully aware of the sexual and emotional violations occurring while she is trapped in the passenger seat of her own life. These moments of clarity inevitably end in violence. Nikki attempts to physically harm herself, utilizing pain as a desperate, primal tool to wrestle back control from the entity. By stripping away the quirky dream girl facade, the film exposes the pure tragedy underneath. It is the documentation of a woman held hostage inside her own skin. Faced with undeniable proof of Nikki's psychological and physical collapse, Bear makes a conscious choice. He calmly watches her deteriorate and ultimately decides to keep the wish intact. His inaction is driven by sheer cowardice. His fear of returning to an isolated existence easily overrides any moral obligation he has to the woman he claims to love. The cursed object drops away as a plot device, leaving an unsanitized portrayal of coercive control. Bear isolates her from her friends, monitors her movements, and restricts her autonomy, utilizing the mechanics of emotional suffocation. His willingness to maintain this nightmare clarifies his true nature, because Bear thrives in a relationship completely devoid of boundaries, proving his nice guy persona is a mask for a predator who prefers a compliant captive over a consenting partner. Bear's refusal to relinquish his control accelerates the film toward a deeply nihilistic climax. The domestic space transforms into a slaughterhouse as Nikki's violent obsession destroys their mutual friends, her sanity, and ultimately, her freedom. The idealized woman archetype is fully dismantled, replaced by an aggressive, sociopathic reality that is reminiscent of Annie Wilkes. The object of Bear's affection becomes the exact instrument of his punishment. Unlike sanitized modern media that often bends over backwards to redeem its flawed male protagonists, Barker's script offers no absolution for Bear. He receives exactly what he asked for, and he is left to suffer the catastrophic fallout alone. This scale visualizes the choice modern genre filmmakers face. On one side, Safe, preachy monologues explicitly outline the moral. Obsession tips entirely toward raw experiential horror, trusting the viewer to process the trauma without a guided lecture. The film earns its lingering dread by proving a deeply uncomfortable thesis. We don't need ghosts or demons to create a nightmare. The unchecked, entitled human desire to completely possess another person is entirely sufficient.